So welcome. I'm Sherman Henry, faculty member along with Jennifer Smith and Nikki Rudiger, staff personnel at Labor Education and Research Center, better known as LERC. Today our session, Toolbox Essentials for Creating Racial Justice, will highlight one of our unionists, Donna Hammond, a business representative with IBEW and trailblazer as the second African-American tradesperson in IBEW 48 to become a licensed electrician journey person. Donna has over 40 years of experience as a unionist, union negotiator, community activist, and serves as an advisor to the Electrical Workers Minority Caucus. Donna also works with Constructing Hope, a pre-apprenticeship program on the advisory board, as well as her life story has been highlighted as part of the Alberta Street historical marker in Portland, Oregon. Today we are taking a different approach to our racial justice conversation, and we're using the term ethnographic process. It's a method in which a person shares a personal story in the context of the broader culture, labor movement, as researchers describe autoethnography as an approach to learning and activism that seeks to explain and systematically reflect on a personal experience, to understand the cultural experience, to understand how we jointly bring forth a story that is not just the participant's story, but the overall relevance of the story and the fruits of her labor. In our racial justice series, our goal is to engage the broader labor community and folks who want to contribute to advancing inclusion, helping empower workers and strengthen solidarity, to change how unions create, foster, and discuss equity and inclusion, in recognition that our empowerment is to transform the world, not just our single union space. Storytelling is an essential component of individuals and the collective culture that describes how we experience a place, how we reflect on our experiences both individually and collectively, and how we grow to create a better movement in the labor movement. So this session will be very interactive, with Donna will be introducing panelists as they enter the conversation. And we ask that any of you who are in our audience to put forth any chat questions that you may have, and we'll call on you throughout the program. The next person, Jennifer, would activate the polling question, and then we would start the program with a video or audio by Donna Hammond.
All right, I'm going to start the poll now and give you about 45 seconds, or maybe a little longer, a couple questions here. I'll close the poll in about 10 seconds. All right, let's see. Closing now. And I'll share with everyone. Donna, what do you see? Do you see the results there?
I can. It looks like the majority, we have 100% labor union. We have 26% apprentice, 48 member journeyman, and 4% supervision. And then we have another 22%. Have you ever experienced racial injustice? 52% says yes, and 30%, 37, no, and 11, I don't know. And what is racial justice? Interesting. Can you guys see that? Fair and equitable treatment. Mindfulness, 48%. And I don't know, received 2%. And have you registered for race talks? And we have quite a few people who've not. So we're going to have some information a little later for you tonight so that you can register for race talks. Thank you, Jen. Can you load up the video?
Yes, I'll do that now.
There's no audio.
I stand on the shoulders of my sister, Charlene Molden, the first female admitted into the NICA IBEW apprenticeship in 1974. Charlie, as she was affectionately known, was a pioneer and groundbreaker. She paved the way for many who have followed in her footsteps. I am currently on staff as business representative, where I have some very interesting stories that I could share with you at some point after the pandemic. But tonight, I am pleased to share the trouble that we are in our local. As Congressman John Lewis would say, we have gotten ourselves into some good trouble. It's the kind of good trouble that he talked about. It's the kind of trouble that's rooted in the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s dream. I was raised on Dr. King's dream. Every Sunday after church, the I Have a Dream album would play on the record player. And I know I'm dating myself. My parents instilled in me that all men and women are created equal. And that's a fact. And I realized my dream when I was part of the first class that integrated Portland Public Schools. Through my apprenticeship, as the second woman of color, as I traveled and worked around the United States as a journey level union electrician, and as I returned home, making a difference in my local union. Recently, we had a couple of incidents that created an opportunity for the leadership of the Oregon-Columbia chapter of NICA and IBEW Local 48 to listen and make a real commitment to that good trouble. I'd like to open this up now.
Thank you. Thank you. And I would like for Shiloh to join me. Hey, how you doing, Shiloh? Can you unmute yourself?
Yes. Hey, Donna, how are you?
I'm doing pretty good. Thank you
Yeah,
for
yeah.
joining me tonight. So, Shiloh,
Yes.
we met a few months ago.
Yes, we did.
Yeah, we had a little interesting interaction. Huh?
Yeah. Yeah,
Can you
to say the
share-
least.
Can you share with a few people kind of how we came together?
So
Before we do that, can you share a little bit about who you are?
yeah, I'm Shiloh. I'm an apprentice with the IBEW Local 48, proudly. And yeah, that's who I am. So I made a little mistake. I say little, but it was a big mistake. And in my ignorance. And what that did was that brought me to Donna. And with that brought me to light a lot of the issues that haven't been talked about with racial justice in America and in our local. And that you know, that actually isn't talked about, you know, at all, really, until I want to say this pandemic has really brought a lot of things to light. And yeah.
So we connected, and you had an education. And what and what did you find out from your education? Were you the smartest person in the room, or were there other folks that you could connect and talk to others about this whole racial justice?
Definitely far from the smartest in the room. But yeah, I connected with a few of the people on the panel, actually, and learned a lot about the things that the Black community faces and in our society. And yeah.
Okay. So what is your current role now? What do you do every day?
Actually, I've talked to a few different people and kind of gained some knowledge on you know, some ignorances that a lot of people actually have to the history, and talk to them a little bit more about it. And
Did you participate in any activities that we hosted at the local? Black Lives Matter rallies or anything?
oh yes, that was enlightening too. Yeah. Yes, I did join you and many other people from our community, not just our local, and in supporting our Black Lives Matter.
And so if we hadn't connected the way we did, do you think you would have participated in the rally?
More than likely, I would probably not have. You know, I was more of a person to just sit back and you know, stay quiet, so to speak. And meeting with you has really brought the opened my mind and opened everything.
Okay. So at this point, I'm going to ask Jennifer to cue up a segment, and then we're going to go and we're going to talk to Garth.
All right, let me cue that now.
I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up, live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal.
Hi, Mr. Bachman, can you unmute yourself, please, sir? There you go.
Sorry, that took a while.
Okay, not a problem, not a problem. So good evening, Garth. How are you?
I'm well. How are you?
I'm doing well. Can you please share with the group a little bit about yourself?
Well, My name is Garth Bachman. I was elected to be the business manager of IBEW Local 48 a little over a year ago. I've been a member of Local 48 for 31, almost 32 years. I grew up in Portland, in North Portland, close to the University of Portland, actually. Went to Benson High School, got into the electrical trade, into the apprenticeship program young. I was just about, I think, 19 years old when I got in. So this is really all that I know. And grew up in a, a pretty average, lower middle class family, I would say. And always been a union-minded person, grew up in a union household, and here I am today.
Okay. And why are you here today?
Why am I here at this meeting?
Yeah, right now.
Well,
What kind of good trouble are we in right now?
well, we're in good trouble that I think that this is a time that a lot of things are coming to light, and we're learning and seeing so many different things in America right now that we didn't necessarily see before. And I have to actually thank COVID a little bit for that, because people have actually had the time to watch the news, to see what's going on. What we've been forced to be indoors, at home for quite some time. And I think people are now seeing some of the things that are actually happening in our country. And I feel that part of it is really good, because we can see what we need and try to make change.
Make some change. And you've stepped up as the leader of our industry, electrical labor, and you've done something pretty unique. Would you like to share what you've done?
I haven't done anything. No, I'm just kidding. No, well, we've done a few things. And with the NECA partnership, the National Electrical Contractors Association, and Tim Gauthier being the NECA chapter manager for our area, we've come together. We've realized that we have a problem. We have a lot of work to do. And I'd actually like to quote him. I'd like to quote Tim if I could.
But hold it 1 second. If you quote Tim, then what's Tim gonna say?
Well, maybe he can quote me. I don't know, but he has said something, a statement that he has made that this resonated with me and it's stuck with me. And he said, we as an industry need to stop just checking the box. We have to do something.
Mm-hmm.
And I couldn't agree more. We're overdue. We have problems. We have issues, and it's time to face them. And make the best attempt that we can to dismantle racism. We may not be able to do it worldwide, but we can certainly do it right here in our jurisdiction.
All right. Thank you, Garth. Thank you. Jen, can you queue up another for me?
Yes, here it comes.
I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, sons of former slaves and the sons of former slave owners will they be able to sit down together at the table of brotherhood. I have a dream.
Tim, can you unmute yourself, Tim? Where did you go? Hi. Hi, Tim. Can anyone hear Tim but me?
No.
Tim? Technical. Boy, we're in the age of Zoom. Okay. Tim? So Garth, it was very important that you said what Tim said, that you quoted him before.
because now
we
he
can't
can't
hear
say
him.
anything. Right.
We can't hear him now. Where did he go? Okay, so we're going to work to get him back. And so, wow, that's interesting. So let's go to Garth. You hold on because I need to talk to you and Tim. Is Tim back? Hey, Tim. Okay, so Tim. Okay. Technology. Garth, what else did Tim want to say? Do you know?
Well, I could get in some real trouble speaking for him, but I'm gonna make a guess here that he would say that we have agreed to facilitate or have some training for not just the local 48 members, but for all of management, for all of the contractors to do together to help us with racial bias awareness, to educate our members and management in ways to combat this and to just make life for everyone more equitable. We know that there are issues, and I think we're both very dedicated to trying to solve some of those issues and progress.
So Tim, is that what you would say? Nod if it is. Hey Tim, can you take it off of silent? Is your phone on silent? Okay, as you work, because we can't hear you at all, Tim. So we're going to go to Shiloh right now, and then we're going to work on your sound. Okay, we're going to work. We're going to give you some time to come back. And so, Jennifer, can you cue me up again, please?
Yes.
And then we're going to have Shiloh introduce himself. As soon as the
I have a dream. My poor little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character. I have a dream.
and I apologize because I meant Sharif. That Sharif, Sharif, can you introduce yourself and share with the group why you're here tonight?
Well, number one, thank you for inviting me to this. Number two, I'm here because you invited me. I always like launching directly into what I want to talk about, and then everybody is wondering, well, who is this guy? So let me give you a couple of minutes of who I am. I'm a consultant, and I do work on the concept of inclusivity. Inclusivity being how all of us are connected to each other and ways in which we can build that connection. My life experiences, I grew up in Camden, New Jersey, worst city in America. There's no question about that. If there's a question in your mind about that, you've never been to Camden. Despite that, I wound up going to college and then to law school. And then from there, I actually have had experiences of working in 45 different countries around the world. I've been on every continent that has people on it, meaning I haven't been to Antarctica yet, but I'm working on it. And more importantly, I've been to over 120, 140 different cultures. I mean, cultures that are, I've been able to see the world in a different way and to bring that experience of a world that's outside of our little American bubble here, bring that experience to a larger audience. I've been asked to look at a couple of different issues for IBEW and ECA. And one of those issues was the situation that Shiloh was talking about earlier. A situation where there's a problem, and the problem was involving race. And to really help to see what the problem actually is. And if I can share my screen with you for a second, I'd like to give you a rundown of what I mean by that. And so, so you have an issue, you have a problem, and you reach into your toolbox for the appropriate tool. Well, if you've got a screw that needs to go in, you don't need a hammer. If you got a screw that you need to put in, you don't need a flamethrower. And so what we need to do is have an appropriate way that we're approaching our issues. So the question in terms of looking at racial justice is justice for whom? Who should be protected? What kinds of behaviors should be protected? What kind of behaviors should be permitted? What kind of behavior should be punished? What kind of behaviors do we want to stamp out? For those of you who have done any kind of research on this, you know that there are various protected classes of people, and by protected class we mean if you are injuring this class in some way, something needs to happen. Race and ethnicity is one protected class. We also have gender and orientation, age, naturalization, religion, family status. There are actually 17 legally protected classes of people. And how we interact around these protected classes are the things that we need to be paying attention to. Also, we need to look at something else, and this is going deeper than the lawyer level, the check the box level. How does IBEW and ECA come together as a family? How do all of the elements come together and work in a harmonious way? How about IBEW's position with other labor communities? What about how IBEW and ECA deals with the public itself? How do you take care of an issue in such a way that your public status is actually enhanced? So, and I throw in there all living beings. We need to stop acting like human beings are something separate from the rest of the earth. We actually happen to live on the earth. After a while, we actually we don't live anymore, and our bodies are in the earth. It's time for us to start acting that way. So we need to look at the effects of negative behaviors on the perpetrator themselves. Okay, what is the nature of the effect of how we deal with that negative behavior? How does the family come together behind the negative behavior? How does IBEW as an organization come together? And then how do you deal with the situation as a whole, with the public as a whole? So I've suggested 5 levels or categories of misbehaviors and how we deal with them. I'm going to walk through this table really, really quickly. First, focusing on the worst of the worst behaviors. I've been looking at this in terms of race, but you can look at this in terms of any of the major classifications of people. You can look at it in terms of sexual discrimination. You can look at it in terms of religious discrimination, etc. But in terms of dealing with this in terms of race, the type of misbehavior we're calling critical are folks that are advocating violence in a separatist way against protected groups, or supporting supremacists, supporting violent organizations. These are people who are, wearing Ku Klux Klan robes coming to work. As ridiculous as that sounds, it has happened before in various places around the country, where you're making certain statements, you're showing certain images, displaying violence against people, like displaying nooses or displaying pictures of lynchings or whatever. The purpose of all this being intimidation and fear. My recommendation for response would be an immediate termination. Like, you need to, if a person has cancer, you don't need to put a Band-Aid on it. You need to get it out of your body. You would need to consider whether or not you would support criminal action against that person. And you would definitely make a public condemnation of that kind of behavior. That's the kind of stuff that you don't want tainting your organization. The second level, the next level down from that, is what I would call urgent behavior. This would be the same kind of separatist behavior, but without the violence included in that. Things like intentionally derogatory language and behavior, intentionally derogatory images. And again, the purpose of that is belittling people, creating a fearful atmosphere, creating a separatist atmosphere. That's a situation where I would again recommend termination, or depending on the circumstances, some level of suspension and some level of public and some level of organizational condemnation. Okay, so the next level down would be what I would call a major violation. And that's where the activity violates some level of the union's values of inclusivity or community or family. Again, separating or demeaning language or behavior where you're stating opposition to a group. This group shouldn't be part of the union. That's already part of the union. And that's something that you need to be addressing. How you deal with that, I think, would depend a lot on the offense itself. And it would take too much time for us tonight to be talking about that, to be going through that. The next level down is a significant type of behavior that is divisive, that is demeaning, that is ridiculing, that's putting someone down. This would include offensive jokes, offensive statements, offensive images, and that would, I would say, require some level of discipline and some level of remedial behavior. Okay, then the last level is a substantial action, but doesn't rise to the level of these other ones. And that would include divisive, demeaning, ridiculing behaviors. Behaviors that are based on ignorance, based on immaturity, based on lack of experience. This again could include offensive joking, but a lot of times it's ignorant joking, like, I simply didn't know this was a problem. And in these days and times, it's really hard to believe that people don't know that racial statements and racial joking is not cool. But it depends on the community that you're raised in, and it depends on whether or not you were exposed to, what you were exposed to. Were you exposed to demeaning behavior on a regular basis, or was this something you made up on your own, etc.? In those situations, you may include some level of discipline, some level of training, some level of something that would be correcting the behavior, something where the person would have an opportunity to learn from that behavior. Okay, so I wanted to share a thought with you and then turn it back over to Donna. This is something that happened to me when I was in Russia, the first time I went to Russia several years ago. And we were taking a tour of a Russian Orthodox church, and it's the first time I'd ever been in a Russian Orthodox church. And some of you may be Russian Orthodox, and I don't know, but this is the first time I was in the church. And in the church, there are no seats. Okay, so you stand for the entire service. And so I'm walking around and I'm looking at the icons on the walls, beautiful artwork on the walls. And inside the church, it's cold. And I don't know whether it was just that way for because we're taking a tour or whether they do their praying cold, but I'm in Russia and it was cold and it was cold in the church. So I had my hands in my pockets of my jeans. And as I was walking around with my hands in my pockets, this Russian guy walks up to me and he literally takes my hand and he pulls it out of my pocket and he puts it down beside me. Doesn't say anything, he just pulls my hands out of my pockets. So I'm like, okay, I guess you don't walk around with your hands in your pockets inside a Russian Orthodox church. So I'm walking around, and again, my hands are still cold. So I've got my hands behind me, and I'm kind of rubbing them together. And a different Russian guy walks up to me, and he takes my hands from behind me, and he pulls them apart, and he puts them on my side. He's like, okay, you're supposed to walk like this in a Russian Orthodox church. Now, I had no intention of offending anybody. I had no intention of putting anybody down. I had no idea that you're supposed to be doing that. You're supposed to be walking around this way. They very firmly, but without any punishing behavior, they said, they were saying by these actions, get your act together. This is the way you act in our church. I think for many people, that's the level of behavior, that's the level of remedial action that's necessary. It's like, okay, that's not cool. Get your act together. When the behavior goes further down that line toward what I'm calling major or urgent or critical behavior, the behavior has to, your responses to that have to go up. Okay, as everyone who's experienced me now knows, I can keep going, but I won't. This is self-discipline on my part. So Don, I'm going to hand it back over to you.
And you're Sharif, and you are with who? Your institute?
Oh, my organization is called Commonwealth Institute. It's a nonprofit organization. And our goal is, and if you could read my button here, is how do we create a world that works for all beings? And that's what we should be about. How do we create a union that literally works for all? Not just for a group, not just for an individual, not just for a set of people in that organization, but an organization that literally works for all beings.
Thank you, Sharif.
Yeah.
So now we're going to go back to Tim.
Hey, you hear me now?
Hi, I can hear you now. Hi.
Surprise.
And you are?
Yeah, Tim Goff here, and I'm the manager of the Oregon-Columbia chapter NECA. So we represent the management side of the equation of the electrical industry with IBEW Local 48. I've been with NECA 46 years. That's why I got this white hair here. And 40 of it here in Portland. I've been involved with apprenticeship and training and labor relations with IBEW 48 for that entire 40 years, and something I'm very proud of as we've built this industry over the year. But as Garth mentioned, I said when we started having these issues that were brought to our light, we can't just say something. We can't just write something. We can't, as he said, just check a box. We got to do something. I mean, we thought we were doing something by providing diversity classes through apprenticeship over the last 30 some years. But that was just a little inkling of information. And for us not to accept that we are, our industry, a slice of society, meaning that we have every part of our society in our industry. So we do have those with faults. We do have those that have great benefits to the industry. But overall, if we're going to do something, we really have to commit. And so we, through Donna, got introduced to Sharif, who we thought, hey, this is going to help. You know, we're not just going to say, oh, here's a piece of paper to read, here's a study to review. Let's just do something in depth. And by in depth, we are committing to, okay, a short-term program, 5 years is what our commitment is right now.
Can you hold on one second?
Sure.
How long is that, Tim? How long?
5 years of training for our industry. 5 years for the apprentices, and in a separate package, 5 years for journeyman supervision in the field and in the office. So we're touching everybody because we need to. We need to commit that we need to educate our entire industry. Now, whether we're gonna, I know we're gonna reach everybody, whether we change, that change is possible, but I think we need to take the action and really do something. And this is our commitment to the industry, that we are going to do something that's hopefully gonna have a profound effect through our society within the electrical industry.
Okay, so I want to come back to you and Garth for just a second, but I want to ask Sherman. Sherman, is there anything going on in the chat, or is there anyone, has anyone raised their hand and has a question before we go any further?
Sure, there's a couple of questions in the chat, and specifically one that I think is important is to kind of break down what has occurred in the organization that has kind of created the need to highlight racial justice training.
You know, I thought Garth covered that pretty well, but I will reiterate that it was all from China.
Donna has humor.
It was the virus. From my lens, it was the virus that made people unemployed, no extracurricular activities. They were able to sit and watch for how many minutes it was for George Floyd. You know, people were not busy doing things and let things go by the wayside. And so they were able to see the injustices, the frontline workers, the essential workers, who was getting the virus, who was dying, at what rate. And I think that it really played an impact, but I'm going to open it up for other panelists to speak to that as well. What brought us to this point in the local?
In the local, yeah.
Yes.
So we had a couple of incidents, and I think that, you know, if you're from the construction industry, you have to be aware of the noose that was found on the job site for Portland State University. Those are things that you cannot ignore. You know, some people might want to walk by it. I think that's part of the problem right now in society is people walk by and they don't open their mouth and they don't stand up for things that are right. And that's what has to happen. And so I think between that and the unfortunate situation with Shiloh and posting something that we all felt was wrong, how do we take action? You know, the first reaction to Shiloh's posting was terminate him, get rid of him, get him out of apprenticeship. And I have to give Donna the credit to say, no, wait a minute, there's an educational opportunity here. And we can't just toss people out and expect them to change maybe it'll just bolster their feelings. So let's bring them in and let's do some education, some training, and expose them to the right things in the world. The Sharif, just let's all act professional and let's do the right thing. And so those things made us really kind of take a different approach, a different look, and not just walk past it, that we do something. And that's why we have gotten into getting involved with Sharif and Commonwealth Institute. And we really believe, we've gone through our labor management committee with this. We've gone through our apprenticeship committee with this. We went through our board of directors. I'm sure that Garth did with his Z-board. And we all believe, there was not one person who said, nah, we don't need to do that. We all believe this is the right thing.
Sure. There's one other question. What has been the most difficult part of having a challenging conversation around racial inequities and racial incidents in the trades culture?
Well, I could provide a bit of an answer on that if it's okay. One of the most difficult, but actually one of the best. It's a difficult thing, but it's also a good thing, and that's when people deny that we have a problem. I think denial is the most difficult thing, but it's also the best opportunity. As long as people are willing to open their minds and listen to somebody else. But for me, I think when somebody's, and I was sent an email just the other day that said, we don't have a racial problem in Local 48. And like I say, to me, that's difficult, but at the same time, that's an opportunity right there for somebody, for all of us to listen. And we can learn about each other. We can learn about ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
Sharif?
If I can jump on that, and actually a couple of other things I'm seeing in the chat box. On the one hand, we have, I don't see a problem, so there isn't a problem. And that is not an appropriate response. The other side of that is, I see a problem, off with their heads. You you're going, 30 miles an hour in a 25 mile an hour zone, you should be executed. Yeah. And I think that has a way of stifling behavior and driving it underground, as opposed to bringing the behavior out so that we can all talk about it. We can say, like the folks in the Russian church, like, okay, no, hands not in the pockets and the hands not behind you. You're going to get this behavior right, okay? And so, but a couple of things I just saw in the chat box. Somebody was asking, how do you get one of the buttons? You can buy them individually from commonway.org, and I see somebody put the Commonway website in the links. But I have the feeling that if more than 10 people or so want them, we'll make a deal, and we'll get you the buttons at a much lower rate than if you buy them one by one. I do things like that that are not in my best in my financial interest, but I'd just love to see the entire country wearing this button. It would mean that we would have a very different kind of conversation going on with ourselves and with each other. We'd actually have a real conversation going on with each other. The other thing is, someone was asking, how do you get a copy of the slideshow? We've not talked about that, but what I can do is give you a copy of it, and you can figure out how to percolate it through your system. Is that okay?
Mm-hmm. Great.
Okay.
Anything else?
This question is not in the chat, but it's a question that I would pose to anyone on the panel. What is the risk that union officials, especially elected officials, take when they're now centering racial equity at the heart of a training?
What was that question? I'm sorry, Sherman, what was that question again?
What is the risk that a union official, especially those who are elected, face when they're centering racial equity at the heart of a training?
Well, you're of course taking the risk of not getting reelected the next time, but for me personally, I can't really consider that, just because right is right and wrong is wrong. If I'm more worried about a local union election than doing what's right, I probably shouldn't be there in the first place. So if I were to not get reelected because of this, so be it. I don't know that that'll be the case, but and then, you know, there's a certain percentage of members that are dead set against this, you know, doing something like this, at least for the moment. We're hoping to change some of that. So I guess the risk would be possibly a loss of some members. We've already seen where some members are wanting to redirect, as an example, PAC contributions to a charity rather than to our political action committee, due to supporting issues that are race related. So there are some risks, but at the same time, if you're not willing to at least try to do what's right, what good is any of this?
Sure.
I think it's important to note that, you know, leaders stand up and do the right thing regardless of risk, because they really do want to make a change. And that's why they're a leader. You know, that's why they got in that position. It was political to get into it. And now they have to be a leader and forget about the politics if they really want to make a difference.
But when I hear that our union is only for wages, hours, why are you laughing when I say that?
It's brotherhood and sisterhood. That's what it's about.
Yes.
So Donna, can I read something here? This is out of the IBEW Constitution.
Okay.
It says our cause is the cause of human justice, human rights, and human security.
Yes.
So I think that kind of says it all right there.
Yes.
Sure.
And we have work to do. We're not there yet.
Sure, appreciate that. Don, I have one more and then you can move on. Kevin asks, what are the goals and how the goals are being measured for your 5-year training commitment?
Well, that's a good question, because, you know, we haven't put anything in writing about goals, but part of it, because it started with apprenticeship, is to increase the awareness, and then obviously the awareness to the public to bring in more minorities and more females into our apprenticeship program. I can tell you, I think we have some fairly good numbers. We just had apprenticeship yesterday. We do have 13% female in the apprenticeship program and 22% minorities. Obviously, that means that 87% are male, but 20% of those are minority males. So I think we have a ways to go, but we have always strived to do what's not usual in apprenticeship programs by just bringing in fathers and daughters. I mean, we really strive to go out and reach to the community to diversify our workforce as much as possible.
Cool. Also, Donna, there's a hand, Keith Edwards. So he can, someone can unmute Keith.
No, don't let Keith have the floor right now.
Thank you very much. And I'll try to keep this short. I've known Tim for many years. We're personal friends, as well as we built a relationship and working together as well. And he has always been an example of leadership. Garth, who I haven't known that long, but I've got to know him better since he became business manager, is another example of leadership. But I just want to say as well, though, that National NICA and the International Brotherhood of Electrical Workers has embarked on diversity and inclusion training. The IBEW had a resolution in 2016 at their convention, and President Stevenson has now launched IBEW Strong, which is their diversity and inclusion program. National NICA has done the same. They've enlisted General, and I can't, General Bailey, I think his name is, that is heading up their diversity and inclusion program as well. So this is not just something that's happening locally, even though it is happening locally, it is happening across the country, and it's happening throughout the electrical industry. And I can say that I truly believe that there's going to be other construction participants, other unionized building trades unions and contractors associations that are going to follow suit, because this is not a trend, something that's trendy. This is something that they truly believe in, just as Garth and Tim believe in it as well.
Was there a question, Keith? Was there a question?
No, that was just a comment.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
I want to address something to Garth and Tim right now. This has to do with something that Tim mentioned, and it had to do with the situation on 4th and Montgomery and the pledge that we signed on to. Can you guys elaborate on the Safe from Hate pledge?
Garth, you want to start?
Well, honestly, I don't have, it's a rather lengthy pledge. I don't have it right here in front of me, but Safe from Hate is, it's a pledge taken that by the construction industry, basically, that there are, it's not just the electrical industry, there are general contractors, contractor associations. I think pretty much every building trades union that there is involved. Along with some of the pre-apprenticeship programs and so forth. A statement has been made, or as you say, a pledge to recognize racial issues on jobs, to out it, and to eliminate it. We will not put up with it, and I couldn't tell you how many different groups have signed on to this. There's quite a list. NICA and IBEW are both on there. The AGC as a whole on there. Various general contractors, like I say. It won't be tolerated on our job sites.
Nice, nice. Thank you, Tim. Anything?
Yeah, the purpose too is to make sure, you know, how people are going to act on the job site, the upfront training that'll happen on job sites moving forward. And we're working together with Kelly Haynes, who's involved with that project, to ensure that we're not going to have to do overlapping training, that what we're doing with Sharif is going to be able to substantiate the work that they're doing through the job site culture pledge as well.
Okay, thank you. I just checked the chat and I want to address an issue, a concern that someone had about me, the comment that I made about the virus, and I do apologize. That was bad, very bad humor on my part, and I was kind of copying someone number 45 who I despise. I do not, never, ever call it that virus, and I apologize for that. And it's just been mishandling. And I don't want to get into politics right now, but I do apologize for that statement if it offended anyone. So, anything else in the chat, Sherman? Do we have anybody who would like to ask the panelists a question?
Yeah, well, what's the recruitment strategy for getting IBEW members involved in the training?
Well, you know, we are probably the only trade in the state, and probably even the state of Washington, that has a director of diversity workforce. Bridget Quinn is her name. She is a journeyman herself, electrician, works directly for the training center, and that is her only job, is to go out and recruit. One of the things we've done, we have a federal grant for a pre-apprenticeship program that is only for minorities, females, and veterans. Now, we wish it was a bigger program, but we have offered that. This is our 4th year, and those individuals who are accepted into the pre-apprenticeship program then have the opportunity with successful completion to go right into our apprenticeship program. So we're working really hard in our recruitment efforts. We've got numbers. Ever since Bridget has been employed for us, that we have been able to detail the efforts that our industry has done in recruiting applicants and getting people to education and through our process. And we've really seen increase in our numbers over the last few years. We've also, for the first time, our office has been doing polls and surveys to find out the numbers of minorities and females, not just in the journeyman ranks, but in the foreman, general foreman, and in the office as PMs and estimators. Mm-hmm. Now, it's only been, we've only done it twice, so it's over a process of this last year, but we'll be able to continue to look at our industry and see what are we doing to affect change.
And when you say affect change, is that in the leadership ranks?
As well as yes, yeah.
And building the ladder?
Yes, absolutely.
Absolutely. I like hearing that. And so what about having crucial conversations, race talks? Have we covered that tonight?
I don't think it's been covered. I don't think it's been covered yet, but what that is, well, Donna, you're probably a lot more qualified to speak on that than I am. But that is something that we're going to do. We've been signing people up via text. We've put notices in the Northwest Labor Press and some membership mail outs that we've had recently. About race talks, and what that basically is going to be is where we can come together. We can talk about these issues. We can hear other people's life stories. For me, being a white guy, I don't have much to share racially. Nothing has ever happened to me that's been racially motivated. That is not the case for a lot of our members. And so this is going to be a great learning experience for myself as well. I'm going to get to hear some stories.
Yes.
that are going to I'm sure have a profound effect on me. I've already heard a handful of those stories already. So things that I would have never thought of.
Can you share the story about the dressing for work?
Absolutely. I'd be happy to. A friend of mine that's a retired member of Local 48, we were apprentices together. And I don't remember how he and I got onto this subject, but we were talking about race, and he said, you know, Garth, he said, you could go into a grocery store after work wearing your Carhartts and your work boots. You might be dirty, filthy, whatever, and you have a hoodie on or whatever. You can walk down the aisles picking out whatever items, and nobody's going to think a thing of it. They're just going to say, oh, there's a hardworking guy that's stopping at the store to buy his dinner for tonight. And he says, for me though, being a black man, if I walk in with Carhartts and a hoodie on, I'm being followed by the manager because they think I'm a shoplifter. He says, you and I make the exact same money. We do the exact same thing for a living. We're there for the exact same reason. You get looked at a lot differently than I get looked at. And that is something I have never even had to think of in my life. So he told me that story years ago, and it has stuck with me. I'll never forget it. These are the things, though, that we all need to share and hear so that we can have at least some kind of a little idea of where somebody else is coming from and what their life is about, and the daily trials that they go through that somebody like me doesn't experience.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully we can relieve some of our own biases that way. Because I'd be lying if I said I didn't have biases. I know I do. I think everybody probably does, but hopefully we can face those.
Okay. So what I'd like to do is ask for final comments. Yes, Sharif. As we start to wrap this up, can you hear me, Sharif? Go, yes.
I'm noticing that there's a hand for Courtney up here, and I had one more thing to say after Courtney is recognized.
Thank you. Courtney?
I just had a question. I would love to hear a little more about the job site culture pledge that was mentioned earlier. If you could tell us a little bit about what that is. What does that mean?
The Safe from Hate pledge? Yes, there was a group after the incident on 4th and Montgomery, and I just know this from afar. Maybe there's someone else. Is Connie Ashbrook still on the call?
Actually, Donna, I have it here in front of me.
Okay, thank you, Tim.
It is a 4-page, 3-page document, 4-page document, and I can hit the highlights on it, but I have to give credit, obviously, to the building trades and actually Anderson Construction, because they were the general contractor on the job site that the news was found, and getting involved in doing this, and I think it's important. So they broke it out. It says number 1, and then it has dialogue, but we will enforce a zero tolerance policy. Number 2, we will implement and expand positive job site culture education on all of our job sites. Number 3, we will continue to work with our community partners to support and recruit diverse talent. And number 4, we will cultivate retention and leadership development efforts. Now there's dialogue for every one of those 4 items, but it would take too long to go through the whole thing. But the whole idea is that we have to lift up our industry and we have to do what's right, kind of right on down the line that we're working with Commonwealth Institute and Sharif.
Thank you. Did that answer your question, Courtney?
Yes, thank you so much. Appreciate it.
Was there another comment? Okay, Sharif?
Yes, the comment that everyone has bias is absolutely true, and it's one of the places I start with in terms of how we start teasing this tangled mess that we've got. The thing I want people to be able to do is take a step back from themselves to see their own behavior, because a lot of times we're great at analyzing the behavior of this other person over there, but we don't see our own behavior and the impact of that behavior on others. I think of myself as a really nice guy. I think of myself as being normal. I think of myself as being non-offensive to other people. But I've got to get out of me thinking about me that way, and I've got to start looking at how does somebody else see me, and help them to see, help all of us to see a better picture and a fuller picture of how we're interacting with each other.
Thank you, Sharif. I just want to add a piece here that for the 42 years that I've been in the trades, I have met a lot of allies. And I've met some people who wanted to take me off the planet, but definitely more allies. And that's what I saw in Shiloh. I just want to go back to why we're here today. That when I took on the responsibility of a business rep, I took on the responsibilities of enforce what matters to me and this local union, and building strength, hearts and minds, and bringing the truth. And I want to thank the leadership of this local and NECA that you guys were able to listen and to hear, and you guys were open-minded. We wouldn't be here right now today if you guys weren't. So I want to thank both of you. And so thank you for your leadership and your support and listening.
Absolutely.
So,
I would just like to add one thing. I honestly, if it weren't labor and management working on this together, I don't think it would work. If management had this fantastic idea of inclusivity and trying to remedy some of these problems, but labor didn't buy into that, it wouldn't work. And same is true the other way. I don't think this would work without both groups. doing this together.
I believe that's kind of one of the points of the success of our growth in our industry, is that we have decided not to be exclusive, that it's going to work by working together, labor and management, for the betterment of this industry. And this is a big part of our industry. I mean, what we do is all about humans. It's all about humans, whether they're part of our trade or part of our customers or part of another trade, that we work about treating people and for the betterment of all.
Sure. And as a university-based labor education program, I would like to request if we can kind of do a case study about this program and possibly have it published, because I think Garth is right. Oftentimes when we think about labor and management, we think about confrontation, we think about strikes. And I think as we really start to rethink our market share, right, it has to be a win-win scenario, right? We did a report that, clearly union wages help the economy, right? And so I think the work that you all are doing in this regard is worthy of scholarship. And I think it will help labor at least advance the interest of the collective and in the public interest, right? This is for the public good, because as we think about workers' contribution, not just the economics, but we're all parents and we all have a different walk in life. So I would like to extend that offer or make the request to say, hey, look, let LERC help with a case study on this, because I think the whole diversity and equity subject content is vital to rethinking about the economy post-corona.
Correct. We, NEC and IBEW, had a relationship with LERC back to the early 80s and working on partnership throughout the construction industry.
Good. Well, Donna.
There we go again. We're ready.
Thank you, Tim. Well, Donna, I think your time is up, and I think
I think so, but I do have to say one last thing. I did thank Garth and Tim, but it was Sharif's proposal.
Right.
Yes. Thank you, Sharif. And I think you're going to make us, you're going to change the industry. You're going to change our local.
Thank you, Donna, because you're the one who brought Sharif to us. So you had the insight.
Yep, I couldn't agree more.
Okay. So I think we're done here. I don't think there's any more questions.
I appreciate it.
Oh, Sharif has, Sharif would.
No, this is just an ending. Okay, this is not me. I don't have another slide presentation to make. Okay, one of the things I like to do is see people's faces. So as we're saying goodbye to each other, could everybody turn your cameras on, and to the extent that you feel comfortable, turn your microphones on, and we can all say goodbye. I'm just looking at all these great faces, and it's like everybody's sitting in these little boxes. And